Wait. Before you watch it, I just want to let you know what exactly you're watching. You are about to see the entire unedited interview with the head of the PEP party, Philip Alexander. You can just watch on, it's really interesting. And let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you don't want to watch this entire video because it's pretty long, you can just check out the highlight video that I will be releasing shortly after I release this one. Peace, please like, share, and subscribe. Much love. So, welcome to 868 Media, everybody. My name is James David. I'm here with Philip Alexander. This is our first ever interview series done. Philip, it's a real pleasure to have you as the first.
It is scary.
No, very basic setup here. We're defeating the mainstream media right now, actually, which is what we're trying to do. Not really. We're just playing around, right? So if you have a high-paying job, you know, or some kind of thing for me,
you want to offer him something?
I'm here. So Philip, talk to us a little bit about the PEP party and just what is it about and what is the way forward right now?
You can't talk about the PEP because you're talking about Trinidad and the history of Trinidad. Trinidad and Tobago is a corrupt and broken country. Every single person in this country knows that as a fact. They should open civics lessons in school with, I accept that my country is a broken, corrupt, and mismanaged country. There is nobody in public office that anybody could tell their children grow up to be like him. And that's sad. Because this is supposed, and these positions in society are reflected, they're spoken into being from the Supreme Law of the Constitution. They should be our versions of royalty. They should be our versions of these are the best, this is what we aspire to be. And none, not one, not in the last government, the version of the government before that. We have a rogues gallery. Trinidadians know more about criminals and corruption and who thief more and who thief less and who less worse. And they have no inkling of what it is like to aspire to contribute at a national level. That's what's supposed to be this calling. This calling that I and the members of the Progressive Empowerment Party and every politician should be in is, I want a better country.
Yeah.
It's always about, you know what? I think I could contribute to my country being better in agriculture, in science, in education, in public health, in home ownership, in banking and finance regulation, in new advances. I mean, the world is changing at a phenomenal rate. We still engage in some of the most dinosaur leadership ever.
Yeah.
We formed the Progressive Empowerment Party as a catch for all of the people who are going to agree with us when we say nothing works in Trinidad and Tobago. And the two governments that have played change, exchange, and musical chairs are responsible.
Yeah.
You can't divorce yourself from the fact that Manning, Pandey, Kamla Rowley's 20 years. You can't divorce yourself from that. And in 20 years, we've spent the equivalent of $1.1 trillion.
Yeah.
Now, $1.1 trillion could buy St. Kitts, Nevis, Grenada, and probably Dominica. We could be a chain of islands. We could be the United States of Trinidad and Tobago. We could.
Yeah.
We could have bought those islands for that money. We've spent in 20 years, we've spent $5 billion a year on public health, $5 billion a year on education. We've spent, that's $100 billion each. We've spent $180 billion on national security.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at those numbers, it's frightening. And the people of the country are so punch drunk. Tell them all of this money is stolen. And they live in a country where if it was really stolen, there would be police and the DPP and the Integrity Commission. So obviously it's not stolen and magically evaporated, because it's hard to believe that we have such a massive level of deliberate incompetence in this country where not even the oversight offices work. So that all of your money and my money that comes in at the end of the month, our national salary, before we touch it, is stolen out of our hands and stuffed into our hands as debt, more debt, that this is what is going to actually cost to operate your country. But what about all that money that we had? Well, don't worry about that, that's gone.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, I mean, when you look at When you look at the fact that we have a prime minister who was the opposition leader who brought to the nation that UDCOT was stealing money, and that the $1.2 billion that was the eventual price tag of the Taruba Stadium that was approved in cabinet for $136 million. That's like somebody saying, look, $5,000. Go and buy me a box of chicken and chips and bring back the change. And you keep all this in. Nah, boy, when I went there, the price of chicken and chips went up to 5,001. That's what we've, as a people, face every single day. Our children, all of us who have elderly parents, we are looking at how do I provide? Because as you get older, the cost of your medicine eclipses your cost of food and clothes. The elders in society. And I just want to give you all of this because they have elderly people going to watch this. And their main concern is how do I take care of my day-to-day life? Because for the elders, you miss your regime of medication. You could die. To the young children, all of us, I mean, my generation that grew up, our parents in Woodbrook used to literally throw us out of the house, come back on the street like, come on. Now you can't take your eye off your child.
So, but how exactly, all of these points are very valid, very, real, and a lot of Trinis relate to them. You hear them speaking about a lot of these things
with it now.
on a regular basis. But, especially for young people like myself, what are we supposed to see in the PEP, and how do we know that they are going to solve these problems?
No political party has attacked the issues at the bone level like we have. We've flayed it. We've exposed the corruption, the mismanagement, the incompetence. We've shown where the problem lies. We don't just say it have a problem. We show you where the problem lies. We show you all the levels of state that should have been involved to right size, to oversee, to keep check, and how they all failed. We could show you the political appointees. When we get into the meat of a matter, we talk about the education system. So we tell you that there was a common entrance at a time when it was an actual entrance exam. And there were 20,000 children trying to get into 5,000 seats or 10,000 seats. There was a time there was a standard 6 for children who couldn't pass common entrance. They get a last class before you go out at the age of 12 or 13 and find an apprenticeship. But over the years and spending all of this money, they've built enough classrooms. So we have enough rooms where there are desks and podiums and teacher's table, teacher chair, blackboard, duster, and chalk. So we have all the rudiments required to actually have a class. But what is absent is a proper education policy. And we say to the people, look, success leaves clues. The Finland model of education leaves no child behind. It is the #1 in the world. They have no examination. They don't separate fish from fowl. They tell you that the more advanced children trying to keep the slower children along with them actually helps all of them go forward. And it is the heart of the PEP philosophy in everything we say. We want to be the rising tide that lifts all boats. We want to say that our jobs policy must leave nobody behind. You shouldn't be working as a security guard or the janitor in a chicken and chips outlet dreaming of your first love to be a tailor. There should be a way for you to pursue being a tailor. It shouldn't cost $100 billion to provide education in tailoring. But every time governments have touched anything that sounded like they were trying to solve a problem, we went from making tailoring a course in Trinidad to bringing people from Savile Row. So we spent $250 million. Why? Why must we go from 0 to 1 million? Why can't we just be normal? Why can't we find what is an acceptable entry standard? To be a mason, you need to be able to mix a certain amount of mortar, mix a certain amount of concrete, lay a block, a certain amount of blocks in an hour, and you could be able to say, this is a grade A class, B class, C class mason. There are levels to enter a trade. Why can't we just identify what that is? We live in a world. The world, when you understand that we can maintain streets in our country, China is laying 6,000 miles of new road every day. China has 84,000 miles of new road in the last 10 years that didn't exist. with our pitch. With our pitch. That's an insanity.
Yeah.
They now have more roads in China, more new motorways than any country on the planet, and they all paved with Trinidad and Tobago pitch.
Yeah. So sorry to cut you off, but would you say that the biggest problem is poor governance in Trinidad?
Deliberate mismanagement is not poor governance.
Yeah.
I know a lot of these people in Parliament. I have known a lot of these ministers, and they are otherwise bright people.
Yeah.
But if you are the Minister of Works, and you go into office and you drawing down $88,000 a month plus perks, so you're happy with that? I mean, it could pay the bills, buy your way you need to buy. And then somebody come along and say, listen, let's build this interchange.
Mm-hmm.
Now on paper it's $48 million. But we could do it for $480 million. Trinidadians can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
You could tell Trinidadians I could build a stadium in Taruba for $136 million. And the same stadium, 10 times the money. I mean, if Trinidadians could just drive down to Aruba and see 10 stadiums. This could be the Chandaball Stadium, the Brian Lara Stadium, the Sir Frank Worrell Stadium, the Vivian Richards Stadium, all one after the other. If you could picture 10 in a row, because that's what we spent for this one.
Yeah.
If you could, you understand what I'm trying to tell you?
What about the highway interchange? Do you think that?
But what I'm saying to you is, if you are the Minister of Works, and I could come to you and tell you that is $48 million, but we could do it for $480 million.
Yeah.
Now, me and my crew, we keeping $240 million.
And you get something.
You and your crew getting $240 million. Just tell us where you want that money. You want it in a brown bag? You want us to take you to a casino in Vegas and we just buy $1 million in chips and walk away from the table? You want it deposited in your bank account in China? You tell us. Now in Trinidad and Tobago, because there is no procurement legislation that says there must be a level at which if it exceeds global standards, because a global standard in a quotation for the building of a walkover.
Yeah.
If a walkover in the States, because understand what I'm trying to tell you, while we speaking here, 50,000 walkovers being built in the world.
Yeah.
So it's a science, and engineers can tell you that a walkover built under normal conditions supposed to cost $150,000 per running foot. Because that's how engineers talk.
Yeah.
Engineers talk. You can pick up the phone and say, I want to build railings around my building. Between $350 and $400 a running foot.
Yeah. Do you think that
there is actual factual guidelines?
Yeah, as to how it should be done.
So if we contrast and compare, when we said that we built the most expensive stretch of highway in the world, the Foreshore Freeway. The Foreshore Freeway is in the Guinness Book of World Records, as the most expensive stretch of highway in the world.
Yeah.
What that means is somebody stole our money.
Yeah,
because we own the bitch.
Yeah, that must be the evidence is what you're saying for the clear corruption.
With procurement management in the country, with a real robust and transparent tendering process, we would say this. So when you put out a tender, you could put out in the tender, in the newspaper, accepting that walkovers cost $150,000 per running foot.
Yeah.
We need a walkover for this position, and we're inviting tenders. So you know that it is 100 foot, so you're expecting $15 million as a max. So anybody who's above $15 million, they fail muster. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Pass muster, fail muster. You fail muster, we're not keeping you. If we know it's $150,000 and nobody in Trinidad could do it for the $15 million, you stick a pin, you press pause, you send the tender to the world. You send the tender to the world. That's how you will end up with Brazilians or Chinese or Indians or Pakistanis in Trinidad building the walkover. Some people say, hey, what happened to Trini workers? We couldn't find a single contractor to do it for a fair price.
Yeah.
And these people are being paid a fair price out of your money and saving you the rest of the money. That's what real governance is. Governance is management.
Yeah.
Governance is Trinidad owns this, and this. Trinidad gets this income and the people expect this. We also, to push the country forward, believe if we make certain investments, we come to the people and we say, Trinidad could get involved in the jeans stitching industry because the jeans stitching industry is $1 trillion a year, so that if we take all the land across from Beetham and open a set of stitch houses, because countries do that.
Yeah.
Countries do that. I mean, India went from the world's ghetto, from the world's slum, in 30 years to having the largest middle class on the planet.
You think if you gain political power, you could do something like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have plans, and if you look at the purpose of having government ministers, a government minister is like a CEO. So when you sit, and our policies are very, very straightforward. We write them out. We tell people this is what you can expect in our under a PEP government. We tell you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So when you have a joint select committee meet to discuss the education sector, and we say right now between 5,000 and 7,000 children fail out of the system, our first step is to correct that. Our first step is to right size that and to make sure that every child gets a prestige education. How do you do that? You have to abolish the SEA.
Yeah.
You have to tear up. I want the priests, the pundits, and the imams to hear me. You have to tear up the Concordat. You have to say enough.
Yeah.
Stop the bullshit. Let us give every single one of the 200,000 children that is in school now a proper chance to maximize their potential. When they come out of that, if you want to take them in your church, if you want to take them in your temple and your mosque and teach them about God and Shiva and Allah, go ahead. But the two mustn't mix. No Catholic school must be able to say, I will cherry pick 20%. Bullshit.
Yeah.
And that is not a proper run country. And that's what the PEP says. So when I say something like that, the religious fanatics will say, oh God, we can't vote for that. Because they want their corruption. Kiss Baking Company wants their corruption. They want to be able to vend illegally while having police all around their vendors picking up other illegal vendors.
Yeah.
Trinidadians and Tobagonians have been screwed in their minds into believing that the country could run as long as one crew gets away with their corruption and it not affect the world.
Do you think that, these big companies like KISS and so forth, and it brings us to the point, I guess, that you always speak about, or you speak about relatively frequently on your shows and stuff, about the 1% who have a lot of economic control in this country. Something I was just thinking about actually just before I came here is that the act that was drafted, I think in 2016, the Fair Trading Act. I don't even think that is.
That's actually not 2016,
Yeah.
That's 2006.
That was 2006. Correct. 2006.
That's languishing there 12 years.
And that was to prevent unfair monopolies and
antitrust. We've debated it. It's cost us hundreds of millions of dollars every time.
Yeah.
The parliament sits. You could work out per hour what their presence in that room costs. You could work out what the lights on costs, what the speaker's salary and their assistants and all of this. All the frou-frou and brouhaha that is the parliament, it costs something.
Yeah.
So you could say if you spend 120 hours at X amount of dollars per hour, say $1 million an hour, because these are highly paid people.
Yeah.
$120 million to debate a bill. We approve the bill. The ayes have it, shelve it.
Yeah, exactly. So you think
what was the point?
Yeah, if you get some sort of political power, what would be your plan for economic redistribution or distribution?
I want you to stick up in and ask me that question again.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you this. The parliament is your voice.
Yeah.
The parliament is my voice.
Yeah.
The Progressive Empowerment Party has one real mission, and that is to wake everybody up and put them in that parliament. That's our mission,
Yeah.
Because if everybody's in that parliament, if the parliament is functional, if you say, enough of that bullshit, fire him, I'm going to raise a petition. Under recall legislation, you're doing too much monkey business in this parliament for too long. You're fired.
Yeah.
All of them, all of a sudden, hey, no, sorry, we're going to fix that. Because everybody want the $80,000 a month. They want their perks. They want to like themselves. They want to walk in Hyatt and say, Mr. So-and-so rich.
Yeah.
You could have all of that. Just do the blasted job.
Yeah.
And the job doesn't come with, and they see this bullshit Trinidadians tell one another, well, all of them will thief. So, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Mind.
That's a common one.
Mind it.
Yeah.
Mind. Be upset about it. Nobody's entitled to thief. Nobody.
People actually vote on the basis that this party may thief a little less, so I'll vote for this one.
The
what do you
current
say to that kind
Minister of Agriculture, Clarence Rambarat, was a columnist in the Express who wrote in 2014 that the 2015 election will be a race to see who less worse. And he then took a government post. Imagine that. They're telling you, they're not even pretending anymore.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter, and this is the simple truth, if the people pay attention to their politics, if the people wake up to their power, and this is what the 1% don't like about me.
Yeah.
Because I show people who hold the real power.
Yeah.
And I've explained to Trinidadians in depth that according to the supreme law that makes this country exist, without a constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, this is not a country.
Yeah. But what do you say?
That is the manual that operates Trinidad and Tobago. And according to that supreme law, before priest, pundit, prime minister, or police, the people have the power.
Yeah.
And it is the people who it is eventually, ultimately up to them how this country is run. The mismanagement, the incompetence, the corruption is a reflection of what we are prepared to allow. And the day we realize that it is us cutting our own throats, I think you will see a tipping point in the way Trinidadians behave.
Yeah. What do you say that there are a lot of people...
And if you come back to your 1% question, anytime you're ready.
Yeah. But let's just go from there, because the thing is that there are a lot of people who, I don't know if it's by fault or what, I don't know. I just want to know what you think. They say, you hear this a lot, that the 1% does a lot of good for the country. They provide us with employment, and the economy is
okay. Let's take that point, right? The 1% has the potential to do a lot of good. Let's go to the 1% issue.
Yeah,
you could say 22% of the country responsible for all crime. So we could speak of that 22%.
Yeah.
We could say that 17% of the country is responsible for all creativity.
Yeah.
So we can speak to that 17%.
Yeah.
We can say 1% of the country has all the wealth. Let's talk about that 1%. You understand what I'm trying to say? So when people say that the 1% has the power to do good, they do.
Yeah.
But Mario Sabga Aboud, who owns Pizza Boys Group, he says he has 126 stores, and his stores is like a tomato tree. Each store, it has the potential to bear fruit or fail. And for his stores to bear fruit, Trinbagonians have to show up and work there. And other Trinbagonians have to show up and shop there. So the 1% really and truly harnesses the potential of the population. Our labor and our consumption is the entire economy. Oil comes bubbling out of the ground, whether we do anything about it or not, you know. Everything in the world that we trade comes out of the ground. Planet Earth, we didn't import it from Venus, Saturn, or Mars. Comes out of the ground, just add labor. And yet we disrespect labor. We have no clue or understanding. We've had union leaders who have no idea that they should have been leading their workers to parity. 10 years ago, I said, the OWTU, under not this clown Roger, the clown before him who was in the parliament for point of pay. What was his name again? It'll come back to me just now. Anyway, his job was to lead his workers to parity. What they were supposed to say is, give the workers of Petrotrin a profit share. So that means in any quarter that Petrotrin loses money, you lose money. So workers will tell, hey, what are you doing there? You understand? Be careful with that. If you damage that and we have to buy a new one, I lose money. When you put that to people, because you see what they've done them instead of 7%, we don't have 2%, all your 2%, give me 7%, no problem, we get 7%. And then the Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor adjust the economy just enough so that you've gotten your 7%. The cost of living has gone up 3%, that swallows your 7%, and you're back to square one. You understand what I'm trying to say? The cost of living, the minimum wage, workers' rights in this country all should have been pegged either to parity in performance, or you could have pegged the elders' pension and minimum wage to inflation, so that the central bank governor and the Minister of Finance would have the responsibility to hold inflation in check. Because if inflation goes up this year 12%, then all of the pensioners were supposed to get an extra $360 in their pension. Because it's supposed to cover and allow for it. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Because when people are on a fixed income, when you have a minimum wage earner getting $2,250 a month, $2,250 a month is not a lot of money. And if you know out of that $2,250 a month, $400 is traveling to and from work to get this money. Right, but let's just watch this. If out of $2,250, $400 is traveling to and from work to get this money, and the price of gas goes up, and the taxis raise their fares, then my $400 becomes $600. That $200 is still coming out of a fixed $2,250. Something in my life just lost $200.
Yeah.
My children just lost the chance to eat a third meal for the day.
Yeah.
And as insane as that sounds,
Mm-hmm.
we walk around knowing that this knowledge exists, but blissfully unaware as to the conditions of everybody else.
Yeah.
Until we as a people start to accept that Goodwood Park children and Beetham children have the same drives, the same needs, the same desires. When we as a people start to say Westmorans and Valsayn and Laventille, they should have access to the same basic living.
Of course.
Everything after that. Now, nobody's saying everybody in the country should have a yacht, but everybody in the country should have a roof, and they should be able to feed their children, and they should have proper education.
Yeah.
If your education system is predicated on a prestige school system, and the prestige school system is predicated on a fraudulent SEA system, that you could go and bribe a priest and buy a space for your child in Fatima, that is not real. It's not true. And if BP Amoco is hiring based on the Fatima years, not the Mokorapo years, and you couldn't afford to buy a space for your child because you don't have the money, then it's not real. It's not true. It's a slanted country. All the people don't have a free and fair chance.
And even those schools,
and we say in our national anthem proudly, here every creed and race find an equal place, but that's not true. If the Concord Act makes it unequal, if the prestige school system makes it unequal, all of us supposed to say when we sing the anthem, sit down, because I'm not standing up to lie.
But what about the fact that even those prestige schools, you could make the claim that they're not even like that good. They're not even that prestigious compared to the worse off ones as well. They themselves also should take some.
Up to the 70s, early 80s, this country had the highest standard of education in the Western world. The Trinidadians used to leave this country in Form 1 and go to the States, and they would put, and Canada, and they would have to put you in the equivalent of Form 3 because we were so advanced.
Yeah.
We were that advanced, and then Father Fafa and a crew formed tutor, and then tutor was all about money, and money for teachers was all about work to rule and who vex laws, and the sacrosanct calling that is the profession of teaching that underpins the advancement and the development of the society fell apart in greed. We were willing to march and we were willing to stay home and to hell with each other, not understanding that 20 years down the road, this same generation that you let down, coming to let you back down. Karma. That's what we actually reaping all of this. Nothing here is accidental. You could trace the path of everything wrong in Trinidad and Tobago
to the education system,
but to our collective action and our inaction and our failure to understand that your children and my children and your parents and my parents should have the same basic respect. When somebody walks in a public hospital, there should be somebody whose job it is to say, good day, how can I help you? You walk in a public hospital now. I take you now St. James Medical Center.
Do you even get on private?
Yes.
You get in private.
Oh, of course. When you go St. Clair Medical Center, good day, how will you be paying us today? Because you could be holding your chest and dying of a heart attack and say, hurry up because you got to deal with your heart. Pull out that Visa card. Because you could dead right here. And they have their bills to pay too, so I'm not judging them. But I'm just saying that if you're spending $5,000 million a year on public health for 1 million people or 1.3 million people,
it's the next big problem, I think.
We should be getting better than we get it.
For sure.
Should be getting better than we get it. You could even say copay. You could make it that for all the minimum wage people and everybody earning less than $100,000 a year, it's free. If I'm earning more than $100,000 a year and you tell me the first 20% of my medical bill, I will pay it, no problem. No problem, because if my bill is $100,000 and I had to pay $20,000, I could pay that. I could, you understand? If I could work and I could have that money, then I could pay that, as long as you're making sure that the other $80,000 that you're giving me is proper health care. That are going and you're not telling me, well, you need to get a scan, but that scan ain't gonna be ready for 17 months. You're on a list.
But how do we really solve the problem with the healthcare? How do we, if you had political power, what would you do? What sort of legislation could you bring? What sort of action could you take? You think it's
they confuse people with public health, and they make public health look like something that can be managed. It could. Most of what happens in public health starts with a call for an ambulance. That ambulance is, there's an emergency. I've been in an accident. I get chopped. I get shot. I get bite by a scorpion. I drink poison. Something wrong. I get a heart attack. Something wrong. The ambulance comes, it picks you up, and there's a magic time frame that you're supposed to get somebody to an emergency room. About 75% of all hospital entries is emergency room entries. So then, if you know that, build 41 emergency rooms. Public health is not magic science. And I had explained on a radio show once that how it's supposed to run is this. You pick up that phone, the person who answered the call, from the moment you connected and you say, I have an emergency, the person on that phone is responsible for your life. There's something called depraved indifference to human life. It's an actual charge in the States. And we could implement that in Trinidad and Tobago, because if you're in public health, then you have to understand you have a serious responsibility to the patients, to the people who come in. This is what you're paid for. And if you don't want to do this, find another profession. But if you're here, you're dealing with life and death. You can't take it for granted. And in New York City, and I was giving them this as an example, that in New York City, the operator that is taking your call, from the moment you call in with an emergency, they start to ask you key questions. They're looking for you on their GPS, and they plug in all that into the closest bus. This is where the technology reach, that you are talking to them. Now, the paramedics, they have already set up all of the stuff that they're basically going to need for an emergency. But if you tell the call center operator that it's a poisoning or a snake bite or something unusual, there's a blue bag or a red bag or an orange bag that you also grab, so you're taking to the site, right? Because the paramedics talking to you, the call center operator is trained to talk to you, to stabilize yourself or to stabilize the victim. The ambulance is on the way. It's talking the ambulance. Can you hear the siren on your street? They're close by to you. I'm watching you on the GPS. I'm watching them on the GPS. They're 100 feet from you. The door's open. Can they access you easily? Is there anything blocking the driveway? All of this happening. Paramedic driver hearing it. Paramedic operator hearing that you said the person frothing,
so
they're turning blue. They're actually there, the operator, and from the time the paramedic says, on site, we have control, the call could click.
And on to the next.
The paramedic is now responsible. And he takes control. The next call that he is making is to the closest emergency room.
And we don't have this sort of system in place.
But here how this plays out, right? So he's on his phone now, open line, to the emergency room. He's putting all the things that he needs to put, stabilizing you, giving you whatever injections. But he's saying it out loud, pushing 300 milligrams or so on. So the emergency room doctor is taking a note of everything that he's doing like he is present. Because they know what already gone into your system to stabilize you, to stop it.
By the time you reach, they know what's going on.
Right. So he's on the gurney, we're going at everything, boom, boom, boom. So they're driving back down the road now. They're going to the emergency room. They pull up, they're talking to the emergency room all the way to the hospital. When they get there and the doors open, because the doctors, the whole the emergency room staff, we're 2 minutes out, they know where they are, so the doors open. When you watch it on TV and you see all these TV shows, this is real. The doors open and you see all these emergency room people come and take the gurney, and the paramedics who have responsibility from them now running behind them, telling them this, you should know this, you should know that, you should know that. And then the paramedic, whoever's in charge of the ER takes it, sign off, paramedics out. Paramedics out. Now the emergency room people have responsibility for you, the victim. They put you on the table and they start to treat with you. They could treat you to the point where they stabilize you, get you better, whatever it was an episode, and they could get you good and send you home. Or we putting you in the hospital. We're referring you to hospital care. They call because an emergency room is separate from the actual hospital. Long stay hospital care have a different doctor or a different person in charge, and that person comes and takes control of you and your case, gets all of the information, pass over to you, emergency room out. If you die,
they could hold.
There is something called, if they could hold, the family could request a morbidity conference. And in a morbidity conference, they would get all of the details from the call, from the phone call, from the paramedics, from the emergency room, from the hospital stay, and contrast and compare. And they could call witnesses, call the paramedic, call the call center person before them to answer questions.
And they have all this information available.
You could find out along that food chain who was irresponsible, if anybody. That's how it's done. If a police officer in New York City draws his gun and shoots somebody dead, Internal Affairs in New York City triggers an immediate investigation, almost like a murder investigation.
Yeah.
From the moment you kill somebody as a police officer, you hand over your gun.
Yeah.
To ballistics, your senior takes your gun. You are still a police officer now, but you don't have your gun.
Yeah.
And the internal affairs, so you're going back to, they call it riding a desk. You go back to the station, you're riding a desk, they investigate the entire case, you're not involved. They investigate and find out if what you did, and they call it in the system a good kill.
Yeah.
If it was a warranted, justifiable kill, then they say that to the public, they put all that information, you get back your gun, you go back to work.
Yeah. So you
if
think
it
that these
was
system,
wrong, they charge you.
Yeah.
Internal affairs have one job in America, in New York City, and that is to charge corrupt and rogue officers.
Yeah.
We could institute an internal affairs in our police service immediately, and in 6 months clean up the whole thing.
And you think the healthcare as well, same sort of internal system?
Absolutely, all of these systems. But all I just told you, and the reason I flesh it out so much for you is not to waste your valuable
It's
time.
to explain exactly
but it's to get you to understand that every single thing can work. If you want to buy, if you want to say that you want to protect procurement and you want to protect the treasury and you need to buy trucks, that you are the Ministry of Works or your national security or your public utilities and you need trucks.
Yeah.
You send to the tenders team, to the tenders board, that you need 100 trucks and they must be capable of doing this job or these jobs.
Yeah.
The tenders board puts out a request for proposals for the provision of trucks. And everybody comes to the tenders board, Mazda, Toyota, everybody who's selling trucks and say, we have this truck and based on the parameters you set, our truck could do it and it'll cost you $127,000 per truck and it comes with 5 years maintenance.
Yeah.
The tenders board responsibility is to look at all the different proposals they get based on what the ministry has asked for. And they could call in technocrats from the ministry and ask for further information. They could call in technocrats from the supply companies and get further. So that the company and the ministry never meets.
Yeah.
Charlie, who's selling a certain brand of trucks, not meeting with a minister in a Chinese restaurant to discuss the contract for the 100 trucks, because it is the tenders board that will award the contract. All of these, every single issue has a solution. Everything.
And you think that you have almost all of them down pat?
If you want to sit down here for 15 days and ask me a question
but
on anything,
the
Prime Minister just said, the Prime Minister just said that there is no way of stopping suspects and gang leaders from getting public works contracts. And that's bullshit. In New York City, there is a simple piece of magic that they do. It's absolute magical. It's called a background check.
Yeah. And then the thing is that, like, it's hard for the public, I feel, and especially people my age who are following the latest little fiasco with the Sealots case and Burke and Gary and all this stuff. Because Gary's on the media saying, you know, y'all are crazy for giving this guy so much media time and he's just known, you know, gangster and whatever, comparing him with Bin Laden's son and whatever. But the guy's sitting down and he's in Sealots, the community leader, and he's fine. So you're talking about him like he's a criminal. You're the commissioner of police, and he's okay.
You know, nobody has asked the media and Matt. The media and Matt has said
they were buckling this week.
But they say they have a right to interview anybody, and they do.
Yeah.
They have that right. Okay, so let's agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
They have a right to interview anybody.
Yeah.
So let's ask the question. Why would you need to interview Berkey Burke? Why?
Yeah.
Is it that because you have Berkey Burke on TV, people might turn on their TV so you could sell some soy milk and some cornflakes? Is it ratings and money? Is it come down to greed?
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about the society. And what Gary's trying to say is, hey, do whatever you want. But just remember,
actions
young people growing up, see, hey, look, Bucks, boy. I could be a criminal too, and I could get on TV and talk to him. All of a sudden, you've glorified wrongdoing. All of a sudden, you've made a mockery of this being a nation ruled by law. We are not saying, at no point in time, we are not saying at no point in time that Berkey Burke is convicted of anything.
Yeah.
We're not saying that.
Yeah.
But the same way that the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago was able to fire Marlene MacDonald within 24 hours for showing up at Berkey Burke for her swearing in.
Yeah.
And it's not because she brought guests, there were other guests, but because she brought Berkey Burke. And Keith Rowley has never been able to explain to the nation why that was enough reason to fire her.
Yeah.
Because if it's enough reason to fire her, you understand what I'm trying to do?
It doesn't make too much sense.
They just throw a man out of the PNM. They all just met Imbert and Rowley and all them, and they just kick a man out of the PNM, a fellow called Ragunanan, and they say they're kicking him out because he was corrupting PTSC. But the same Prime Minister said, if you show me evidence of corruption, we will immediately prosecute. Yeah. You have sufficient evidence that you just kick a man out of your whole party. Where's the prosecution? It's double-speak and hypocrisy and bullshit. And the reason we use that word bullshit, and I need to say it as many times as possible, is because we need a bullshit-free zone. We need people to be able to talk, and when you speak, it must make sense. When Fitzgerald Hines says that there's a rough estimate of 8,154 guns, that's too specific to be an estimate.
Yeah.
Speak sensibly to the public. They may be poor, but they're not stupid. Yeah. Trinidadians are bright people. And if you lead them properly, they will easily operate this country in the best interest of everybody.
Yeah. Well, Phillip Alexander, I don't know how much longer my camera could last. We're going so long. You know, it's a real pleasure though.
It was a nice first interview. Anytime but you see, and the issues, and this is critical to the conversation. Eh? All the bacchanal aside, you allowed us to talk issues to a level that people want to hear. People want to understand why doesn't it work? How should it work? So they could ask of their leaders, why wasn't it working all the time?
It's true. Do you think that the media, just last question, do you think that the media sort of is inhibiting this conversation from really taking place at the level it should be, and that they are potentially a problem?
The owners of the media understand that the Progressive Empowerment Party government will stop the gravy train that all of them benefit from.
Okay.
That M&M Insurance, a sister company of News, they would have to compete with every other broker, that they wouldn't be handed Plum Insurance and Massey and Sabga and all of these people. They understand. They own media houses, but ultimately, because we have no disconnect, no arm's length between the boardroom and the newsroom, that they influence what people hear as news. If we had genuine, authentic journalism and real media, the Progressive Empowerment Party will be covered nightly. We lead the conversation. Look, we just brought into the public space and blew up the fact that the Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau is under the Attorney General. That is a mad position. That is a political appointee. All corruption comes from government. How could you put the corruption police to answer to the government? And we said that is a stink. That is wrong. You make plain smart with stupidness. Yesterday, the government moved it under the Commissioner of Police because the Commissioner of Police agreed. Trinidad and Tobago, if they were seeing the Progressive Empowerment Party and all the work that we do every single day, there'll be not one voter left in the PNM or the UNC.
Well, Phillip, it's our pleasure. Thanks a lot for giving us this opportunity.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure being here with you.
Great. Subscribe, like, and share, everybody. It was a pleasure, and I hope to do this again sometime. Whatever. That's what it's actually called, a dead rat.
Seriously?
That's the name of this thing, yeah.